We don't fall out of love overnight. We drift slowly, quietly, sometimes without even noticing, until one day we wake up and realize there's a distance between us that wasn't there before. And the truth is, rebuilding intimacy after emotional distance isn't about forcing closeness. It's about finding our way back to why we chose each other in the first place. Because every relationship starts with a reason, a belief, a vision we both shared, even if we never said it out loud. And when that emotional distance shows up, it's not just about the arguments or the silence, it's about forgetting that why. So the first step isn't to fix the distance, it's to remember the reason we wanted to stand close in the first place. We don't rebuild intimacy by asking what went wrong. We rebuild it by asking why we chose each other in the first place. Because somewhere along the way, we stopped remembering. Somewhere along the way, the small frustrations became bigger than the original reason we decided to do life together. And if we want to find our way back, we can't just patch up the cracks. We have to go deeper. We have to go back to the foundation. Every relationship begins with a reason. Maybe it wasn't something we could put into words at the time. Maybe it was a feeling, a sense of home, a quiet knowing that this person mattered in a way others didn't. But there was a why, a purpose, a vision of what life could look like with this person by our side. That's what drew us in. That's what made the sacrifices worth it. And that's what we lose sight of when emotional distance creeps in. When we forget the why, we start focusing only on the what and the how. We focus on what they didn't do, how they failed, how we've been hurt, how things have changed. And while those things are real, they're symptoms, not causes. The deeper cause is that we've stopped anchoring ourselves in the reason we began. We stopped seeing our partner through the lens of purpose and started seeing them only through the lens of problems. And when that shift happens, the distance grows. So the first step isn't to demand change. It's not to list demands or rehearse grievances. The first step is to remember, to ask ourselves, why did I choose this person? Why did I fall in love? What was it about them that made me say yes? And I'm not talking about surface answers. I'm talking about the core of it, their kindness, their strength, the way they made you feel safe, the way they made you feel seen, because those things are still there even under the layers of hurt and frustration. When we reconnect to our why, something powerful happens. We stop seeing the relationship as a transaction. We stop keeping score. We stop trying to win. And we remember that love isn't about winning. It's about choosing every single day. And yes, the feelings may not be as easy as they were in the beginning. Yes, life may have added pressure, stress, and disappointment. But the why can still guide us back. The why can remind us that even though it's hard, it's worth it. I've seen so many couples try to rebuild by fixing surface-level issues. They try new routines, go on trips, plan date nights. And while those things are valuable, they're not enough if the deeper purpose is lost. Because intimacy isn't just about spending time together, it's about believing in something together. It's about holding on to a shared vision of what you're building. And without that vision, no amount of activity will restore the closeness. It'll feel hollow, forced, temporary. But when we reconnect to the why, even small moments become meaningful again. A simple conversation feels like progress. A small gesture feels like love. The frustration doesn't disappear overnight, but it becomes lighter because you remembered what you're fighting for, not just what you're fighting about. And that shift is everything. Rebuilding intimacy isn't about going back to how things were. It's about moving forward with clarity about why you're still here. It's about saying, yes, we've been through disappointment. Yes, we've drifted, but I still believe in us. I still see something worth choosing. And from that place, trust can be rebuilt. Vulnerability can return. Hope can grow again. The why isn't just sentimental, it's strategic. It gives you a reason to stay in the room when you want to walk out. It gives you a reason to listen when you'd rather defend. It reminds you that intimacy isn't found in perfect circumstances, it's found in shared commitment. And sometimes the bravest thing we can do is to pause, look at the person we promised ourselves to, and remember, this is why I'm still here. And in that remembering, we create a new path forward, not by erasing the past, but by honoring the reason we started and choosing, again, to begin. We live in a world that teaches us to wear armor, to show strength, to keep it together no matter what. But here's the paradox. The very thing we think protects us is what keeps us apart. Because intimacy doesn't grow in perfection, it grows in vulnerability. And if we're serious about rebuilding intimacy after emotional distance, we have to stop trying to look strong. We have to start being real. It's natural to want to protect ourselves especially when we've been hurt. Maybe we've been rejected, misunderstood, or taken for granted. Maybe we've opened up before and it wasn't safe. So we tell ourselves, I won't make that mistake again. We put on the mask. We act fine, we pretend we don't care as much as we do, but deep down we're longing for connection. And the hard truth is we can't have both. We can't protect ourselves from vulnerability and experience true intimacy. We have to choose. Vulnerability is scary because it exposes us. It says, here's who I really am, here's what I'm afraid of, here's what I need. And when we're emotionally distant, it feels risky to go first. We tell ourselves, I'll be open when they're open. I'll be honest when they're honest. But someone has to go first. And that's the real courage. The courage to lead with vulnerability even when we're not sure how it'll be received. I've seen it over and over again. People trying to fix relationships by proving a point, by showing they're right, by holding it all together. But no one falls in love with perfection. We fall in love with the cracks, the flaws, the moments when someone lets their guard down and says, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm trying. That's where trust is built. That's where intimacy grows. And yet we resist it. We think if we admit weakness, we'll lose respect. We think if we show uncertainty, we'll lose control. But the opposite is true. Vulnerability doesn't make us weaker in love. It makes us trustworthy. It signals that we're safe to approach, safe to confide in, safe to connect with. Because no one can connect with a wall. They can only connect with what's real. Leading with vulnerability doesn't mean oversharing or dumping every emotion without boundaries. It means being honest about what's going on beneath the surface. It means saying, I miss you, instead of acting distant. It means admitting, I don't know how to fix this, but I want to. It means letting go of the need to be right, just so we can be close again. It's humbling, it's uncomfortable, but it's powerful. Because the moment we stop performing, the moment we stop pretending, we give the relationship permission to breathe again. We make space for real conversations. We make space for empathy. We make space for healing. I think sometimes we forget that intimacy isn't about solving every problem. It's about feeling safe enough to face the problems together. And nothing creates that safety faster than vulnerability. When one person says, I'm scared, it invites the other person to say, me too. When one person says, I need help, it invites the other to step closer. That's how the distance begins to shrink, not by perfection, but by shared humanity. And here's what's even more beautiful. Vulnerability is contagious. The moment we let our guard down, we invite the other person to do the same. We create a new pattern. Instead of defensiveness, we create openness. Instead of blame, we create understanding. Instead of silence, we create dialogue. And intimacy is born in that space, not in having the perfect words, the perfect plan, or the perfect moment, but in being brave enough to say, this is me. Will you meet me here? If we want to rebuild intimacy, we can't wait for the other person to go first. We have to lead. Not with perfection, not with performance, but with the quiet, humble courage to show up as we are. And in that showing up, we give the relationship its best chance, not because we controlled it, but because we trusted it enough to be real. Because love doesn't need perfection, it needs presence, it needs truth, and it needs the willingness to be seen. And when we lead with that, we open the door for something deeper, something stronger, something worth rebuilding. One of the biggest mistakes we make when trying to rebuild intimacy is assuming that honesty automatically follows the demand for it. We say, just tell me the truth. Be honest with me. Open up. And we wonder why the other person stays quiet, why they hesitate, why they give us only half of what we're asking for. But the truth is, honesty isn't something we can demand. It's something that grows in the soil of safety. If we want real honesty, we have to create an environment where it's safe to tell the truth. Think about it. How often have we said we wanted the truth, but the moment it was uncomfortable, we reacted with defensiveness, criticism, or anger? It's human. None of us like to hear things that challenge us or hurt us. But every time we react with judgment, we teach the other person to hold back. Every time we punish honesty, we push it underground. We don't mean to. We think we're protecting ourselves. But what we're really doing is closing the door to the very intimacy we're longing for. Safety doesn't mean avoiding hard conversations. It doesn't mean pretending everything's okay. That means creating an emotional space where the other person knows they won't be attacked, dismissed, or shamed for telling their truth. It means listening before responding. It means asking questions with curiosity, not interrogation. It means holding space for answers we might not like without rushing to fix, blame, or defend. I've seen so many relationships break down because people assumed that love was enough to guarantee honesty. But love isn't enough by itself. Love needs safety to thrive. Safety is what makes it possible to say the hard things, to admit fears, doubts, disappointments, to confess mistakes, to reveal desires. Without safety, honesty feels dangerous. And when honesty feels dangerous, we only share the parts of ourselves we think are acceptable. The rest gets hidden. And what's hidden creates distance. So if we want intimacy, we have to earn honesty by building safety first. And safety is built in the little moments. It's built in how we respond when our partner tells us something vulnerable. It's built in whether we keep their secrets or betray them. It's built in whether we show up consistently or make them question if we're reliable. It's built every time we choose to stay present, even when the conversation is hard. Safety doesn't mean we agree on everything. It doesn't mean we never get upset, but it means we know how to disagree without destroying each other. It means we know how to be angry without being cruel. It means we care more about protecting the relationship than winning the argument. And in that environment, honesty can breathe. We forget sometimes that honesty requires courage. And courage doesn't show up in hostile environments. It shows up when there's trust, when there's empathy, when there's a sense that even if I tell you something hard, you're not going to throw it back in my face later. That even if I disappoint you, you're still going to see me as worthy of love. That even if I mess up, you're still going to believe in us. Creating safety doesn't mean lowering standards or ignoring problems. It means setting the tone that says, I want the truth more than I want to be right. I want connection more than I want control. I want to understand more than I want to defend. That posture changes everything. It invites openness instead of secrecy. It invites honesty without fear of punishment. And when we build that kind of safety, honesty begins to flow naturally. Not because it's forced, but because it's welcomed. Because the relationship feels like a place where truth can live without being buried under blame or shame. And that honesty becomes the bridge back to intimacy. Not a perfect intimacy, but a deeper, more resilient one. An intimacy built not just on love, but on trust. Because in the end, honesty isn't a demand, it's a gift. And like any gift, it can only be given freely, never under pressure. If we want that gift, we have to make it safe to give. We have to be willing to receive it gently. We have to create a space where truth is not just allowed, but honored. And when we do that, we give the relationship a new chance. A chance to be built on something real, something honest, something safe enough to last. We love the idea of big gestures. We love the stories of dramatic apologies, surprise vacations, grand declarations of love. They make for great movies. They make for great headlines. But in real life, grand gestures don't rebuild trust. Consistency does. Intimacy isn't restored in one big moment. It's rebuilt, brick by brick, in the small, often unnoticed actions we choose every single day. When emotional distance has set in, it's tempting to believe that one powerful gesture will fix everything. We think, if I just plan the perfect weekend, if I just buy the right gift, if I just say the perfect words, we'll be close again. And yes, those moments can be meaningful, they can be beautiful, but they don't last if they're not backed up by daily follow-through. Trust, once broken or weakened, doesn't respond to intensity. It responds to reliability. Think about it. What makes us feel safe with someone isn't that they surprised us once. It's that they showed up again and again. It's that they said what they meant and did what they said. It's that they were present on an ordinary Tuesday, not just on an anniversary or a birthday. Trust grows in the small things. The check-in text, the thoughtful question, the apology that's followed by changed behavior, the simple act of listening without distraction. These are the moments that say, you matter. I'm here. I'm still choosing you. The danger of grand gestures is that they can become shortcuts. We start relying on them to cover over the deeper work we haven't done. We hope they'll erase the past instead of repairing it. But trust doesn't work that way. Trust doesn't get rebuilt because of a single act of love. It gets rebuilt because of a pattern of love, a track record, a rhythm of showing up even when it's inconvenient, even when no one's applauding. Sometimes we think big gestures prove how much we care, but the truth is, small, consistent actions require more commitment. Anyone can pull off a one-time surprise. But showing up every day, even when it's hard, even when you're tired, even when you're frustrated, that's harder. That's where character shows up. That's where love becomes a choice, not just a feeling. And the reason this matters is because broken trust often leaves people feeling uncertain. They wonder, can I count on you? Will you be here tomorrow? Will you keep your promises? And every small, consistent action answers those questions. Every time we follow through, we're writing a new story. We're saying, yes, you can trust me. Yes, I'll be here. Yes, I'm willing to do the work. I've watched people pour their energy into planning something dramatic only to fall back into the same old habits a week later. And what their partner needed wasn't a performance. It wasn't a one-time effort. It was the quiet reassurance that says, I'm here. I'm learning. I'm committed. That quiet reassurance is what rebuilds intimacy. It doesn't look impressive on the outside, but it's deeply felt on the inside. The beauty of small, consistent actions is that they're accessible to anyone. You don't need money to be consistent. You don't need perfect words. You don't need a flawless plan. You just need willingness. You need the humility to keep showing up, even when progress feels slow. Because intimacy doesn't return in a rush. It returns gradually. As trust is restored, we often underestimate the power of the simple things. Looking someone in the eye when they're talking, putting the phone down to listen, saying thank you, following through on the little commitments, being reliable in the mundane moments. But these are the things that make a relationship feel safe again. These are the things that make distance shrink. And over time, those small acts add up. They create a new path. They write a new story. And that story is far more powerful than any grand gesture could ever be. Because it's not built on intensity, it's built on integrity. If we want to rebuild intimacy after emotional distance, we have to stop chasing the extraordinary and start practicing the ordinary with extraordinary consistency. We have to realize that love isn't proven in one dramatic moment. It's proven in 1,000 small choices to keep showing up, to keep choosing each other, to keep walking forward one step at a time. And in the end, that's what builds trust that lasts. Not because it was loud, because it was faithful, not because it was perfect, but because it was real. And that's what makes intimacy possible again. When a relationship has gone through emotional distance, it's natural to want to close the gap quickly. We long to feel close again, to erase the awkwardness, to get back to what once felt easy and effortless. And sometimes we believe that physical intimacy is the shortcut. That if we can just reignite the physical connection, the emotional bond will follow. But the truth is, intimacy that starts with the body but skips the heart doesn't last. If we want real closeness, we have to rebuild emotional connection first. Physical intimacy is powerful. It's one of the deepest ways we express love and trust. But without an emotional foundation, it can become hollow. It can feel like we're going through the motions, hoping to feel something we haven't actually rebuilt yet. We end up using physical closeness as a substitute for the hard work of emotional repair. And while it might feel good in the moment, it doesn't heal the deeper wounds. Real intimacy isn't just about proximity, it's about being known. It's about feeling safe enough to be vulnerable, to let someone see the parts of us we usually hide, and that kind of safety can't be rushed. It has to be earned slowly through conversations, through trust, through moments of showing up for each other in the small ways that matter. Without that, physical intimacy risks becoming a cover-up instead of a connection. I've seen couples try to skip this process because it's uncomfortable. Emotional distance brings up all kinds of fears, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear that the relationship will never feel the same again. So they move quickly into the physical, hoping it will bypass those fears. But the fears don't go away, they stay hidden underneath, and sooner or later they surface. They show up in resentment, in unspoken frustrations, in a sense that something's missing even though you're together. The pathway back to real intimacy starts with emotional honesty. It starts with asking the hard questions. What created the distance between us? What needs weren't being met? What patterns do we need to change? It starts with listening, not just to defend, but to understand. It starts with rebuilding trust, one small moment at a time. And yes, that takes longer than jumping back into physical intimacy, but the depth it creates is worth every step. When we prioritize emotional connection, physical intimacy becomes richer, more meaningful, more genuine. It's no longer something we use to fix the relationship. It's something that naturally grows out of the repair we've done. It becomes an expression of trust, not a bandage for broken trust. It becomes a celebration of closeness, not a shortcut to avoid the hard work. One of the most powerful things we can do in a relationship is to give each other the space to reconnect emotionally without pressure for physical closeness before we're ready. To say, I'm here for you, not just for what you give me physically, but for who you are. I want to understand you. I want to know what's on your heart. I want to rebuild what we lost. That kind of patience builds safety. And safety is what makes true intimacy possible. We have to remember that physical intimacy without emotional safety can actually deepen the distance. It can create confusion, mixed signals, and pain. But when physical intimacy is built on emotional connection, it brings healing, joy, and security. It becomes a reflection of the trust we've rebuilt, not a replacement for it. It takes courage to slow down. It takes humility to admit we need to reconnect on an emotional level first. But that patience sends a powerful message. I value you. I value our relationship. I'm not looking for a quick fix. I'm committed to real restoration. And that message is what creates the foundation for lasting closeness. Because in the end, we don't just want to be close physically. We want to be close emotionally, spiritually, relationally. We want intimacy that feels safe, that feels honest, that feels whole. And that kind of intimacy can't be rushed. It can only be built slowly, intentionally, with love leading the way. When a relationship has been through emotional distance, it's so easy to get stuck looking backward. We replay the mistakes, the arguments, the disappointments. We analyze what went wrong over and over again, as if finding the perfect explanation will somehow undo the pain. But here's the truth. No amount of looking back will change what's already happened. Healing doesn't come from fixing the past. Healing comes from deciding together what kind of future you're going to build. It's not that the past doesn't matter. Of course it does. We have to understand it. We have to acknowledge the hurt. We have to own the ways we contributed to the distance. But at some point, we have to choose whether we're going to live in the past or learn from it. And learning means we take the lessons with us, but we stop setting up camp in the pain. We stop using the past as a measuring stick for what's possible. We stop rehearsing the same arguments that have no new answers. Because if we want to rebuild intimacy, we have to start facing forward. We have to shift the conversation from why did this happen to what do we want to create now? We have to stop using the past as a weapon and start using it as wisdom. We have to ask ourselves, who do we want to become together? What kind of relationship do we want to design moving forward? That's where hope lives. Not in fixing what's already broken, but in building something better. The danger of focusing on fixing the past is that it keeps us tied to old patterns. We end up relitigating the same issues, trying to win old battles, trying to get apologies or validations that may never come in the way we hoped. And all the while, the future waits for us to pay attention. Intimacy doesn't grow by endlessly picking apart yesterday. It grows by planting seeds today for what we want tomorrow. That shift in focus takes courage. Because the past feels familiar, even if it's painful. The future feels uncertain. It asks us to dream again, to hope again, to trust again. And that can feel risky when we've been hurt. But if we stay anchored in the past, we end up building walls instead of bridges. We end up defining ourselves by what went wrong instead of what could go right. And a relationship defined by old wounds can't move forward. One of the most powerful decisions a couple can make is to say, we're not going to let our worst moments have the final word. We're not going to let the past dictate the future. That doesn't mean ignoring what happened. It means refusing to be trapped by it. It means choosing forgiveness, not necessarily forgetting, but letting go of the need to keep reliving the pain. It means shifting the conversation to possibilities instead of problems. When we focus on the future we want to build, something beautiful happens. We start dreaming together again. We start setting new goals. We start asking different questions. How can we love each other better? How can we communicate more honestly? How can we create new memories that feel safe, joyful, meaningful? We start becoming teammates again, not adversaries trying to prove who was more right or more wrong. And that teamwork builds intimacy. Because intimacy isn't about perfection. It's about facing the same direction, even if the road behind us was messy. It's about saying, I'm willing to do the work, not just to fix what broke, but to create something stronger, something wiser, something more beautiful than what we had before. That's where hope lives. That's where trust starts to regrow. We can't change the past, but we can absolutely change the story we write from here. We can choose to be architects of a new relationship, one built on lessons learned, one defined by shared values, one grounded in a vision for the future. And that vision will pull us forward far more powerfully than any attempt to fix yesterday. In the end, what matters isn't how perfectly we fix what went wrong. It's how bravely we commit to what we want to create next, because the past may shape us, but it doesn't have to define us. The future is ours to build together.